Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
Have you ever owned a gold-plated Bible, been at a wave pool baptism, or won the top Christ-following man award? If you have, you might be one of the Righteous Gemstones. If not, maybe you're like us and just really enjoy the TV series from HBO Max, Righteous Gemstones. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. It's been a long time coming. Whenever your fandoms directly criticize your faith, you're like, well, that's pretty much what this show's about. And that's pretty much what our podcast wants to talk about. So here we go. The perfect match. We might just rename this to the Righteous Gemstones podcast. We won't, but we might get all golden mics if you guys give enough on Patreon. So consider that. Consider that.
And white wigs.
Oh man, I can't wait for this episode. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I am Joshua Noel. I put Labradorite as my my gemstone. That's my subtitle today because it's one of the cheapest ones that still looks good. I am here, of course, with our fellow geekologist, the one who really started it all. If you dig into the lore of systematic geekology, you want to dig a little deeper as a geekologist, you'll know more about Will Rose. Thank you for joining us, Pastor Will. What a fun episode for a pastor to be.
Oh, I can't wait. My
pastor, nonetheless.
That's right. And I claim, even though my voice isn't very righteous right now, I will say that I feel both righteous and sinner, as Lutherans like to embrace the both and of saint and sinner at the same time. I'm both righteous and sinner at the same time.
See, I thought you were going to tell us that you were shouting in tongues and lost your voice as you threw people into a wave pool in a spectacle baptism, you know?
Yeah, that
sounds Lutheran. That's not Lutheran at all. we don't even do full immersion baptism, right?
As a surfer who likes waves, I don't mind doing a baptism in a wave pool. I might just ignore the person being baptized and catch a wave, but who knows?
That's fine. Also here with the one, the only, Evan Garcia. Where's my payday? How's it going?
Where is my payday? And
that's how I feel too.
Yeah, man. That's some good stuff. Good stuff. Same with my voice. It's not very righteous today. Sorry about that, guys. But we'll be getting into some righteous foolery here with this stuff. Can't wait to talk about it.
Y'all plan on being righteous. I plan on getting indignant. I was about to start quoting a really cheesy Christian song. I
know what song you're going to go. You should have kept going. I could have started dancing.
That's so funny. Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, and of course, we are also here with the one, the only, Kevin Schaeffer, the only one to put a vote in for Cardinal Baby Billy to become Pope. How's it going, Kevin?
I mean, I think wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, no diss to the newly elected Pope, but no, this was actually, Will sent me a reel about this where it was like a meme about Baby Billy getting elected Pope and the whole world is cheering. The amount of like Baby Billy Instagram reels I'm getting in my feed right now makes me really happy because as soon as you like one, the algorithm sends you more. And I love that character is becoming more and more popular in pop culture now.
Yeah. Man, yeah. Speaking of the reels we like that we keep getting fed in our algorithms, if you guys rate and review or comment on our show for Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It'll put it in other people's algorithms, or even better, if you review our show on Podchaser or Good Pods, that puts it in like Google search and those kind of other search algorithms, and it'll help other people find our show, which we'll be really grateful for, as we're probably about to get a super borderline sacrilege probably this episode, because it's hard to talk about the show without getting there. But since we brought up the Pope, I do want to mention my other podcast, the Whole Church Podcast. I haven't recorded it yet. By the time this releases, it's probably already out. I am doing an episode with Professor Chris Moreland, who is a devout Catholic who knows a lot about all of this stuff. And we're going to be talking to him some about the new Pope, as well as Pope Francis' legacy and that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to learn more about real popes, you can go over there. But if you want to hear more about baby Billy, stay right here. Stay right here. Man, what I've been geeking out on, though, first I got to say again to the Instagram Reels, man, since I started liking and being more open about Kingdom Hearts, like most of mine are Kingdom Hearts now. Nice. And my favorite the other day, I have a meme, and it's from like the second game. Because you know how games do, like they set stuff up where you have to do like a little side mission, and we needed to do side missions to get money, and you're playing as like middle schoolers, I guess. And they're like, wait a minute, we forgot. We're broke. I think that single scene as a meme, I'm like, this might be my favorite thing, because I just need to print it out and put it on my window. But I'm going to share a geek out moment, and then what I'm actually geeking out on continuously. I'm cheating because this is my 1 week off between spring semester and summer semester, so I'm geeking out on a lot. My geek moment, I got to go to the beach, and I was having fun, and I always wake up before everybody else, for the most part, unless I'm with specific groups of people. And I'm up early. We have a little balcony that oversees the beach. I go out there with my Steam Deck, and I'm like, I'm going to play. I've been going back through Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart to try to get 100% on everything, so I had to get all the collectibles and stuff. And I went to the pirate level while I'm sitting here on the beach to find the golden bolt. And that whole experience was great. Just blowing up robot pirates, looking for a golden boat, sitting there with the ocean waves in the background. Like, this is... the soundtrack starts playing. Yeah, it was great. But what I'm continually to geek out on, I mentioned a lot last year about this book I really liked, the Kamigawa Food Detectives. Will was there when I found it. I discovered that was part 1, and that there's 2 more parts. So I'm going to be finishing up that series soon, because it's phenomenal. Really great Japanese literature on people looking for old family recipes or something, and they can't figure out exactly how it happened. And this detective goes and finds old family recipes and what made them taste the way they did. And it's, especially if you like food, it's a phenomenal read. Nice. I want to get Mark Flower to talk to me with it at some point, but that's a thought for later times. Will, what have you been geeking out on, man?
I'm the same. It's summertime, so the water the ocean water has gotten warmer. I no longer have to wear a wetsuit, so I've been doing a lot of surfing. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this episode, I am either flying or in Hawaii or back from Hawaii, taking our family vacation, taking my mom, maybe catch a wave. So I'm geeking out on surfing. World Surf League, the Pro Surf League is in full swing. Been watching that, getting hyped. So yeah, everything ocean, beach, summer, surfing. That's where I am right now.
Sweet. You plan on playing any Ratchet & Clank, getting gold bolts or anything?
No, not at all.
Man,
not at all.
My favorite, guys, I hate to keep doing this, but I was going through the level and I didn't notice, since they have a theme park there. Ratchet & Clank is just all satire. That's all it is. And they just decided to basically make a mock version of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Disney World in the middle of this video game for absolutely no reason. Cool. And you go by, and there's the little robots behind the prison gate trying to get the robot dog to give them the key. And I'm like, this is great. This game understands my soul.
When there are things that makes Joshua giggle, it's contagious. I giggle too. I have no idea most of the time what he's talking about. But if it makes him happy and brings him joy and he giggles, I giggle too. I almost did the screen share thing where I could do like the whole video of my last 5 minutes playing, just so I could send it to you guys on Discord. And I might go do it again. I might go replay that just so I can send it. Kevin, man, what you been geeking out on?
So I'm rewatching all of the Mission Impossible movies in light of the Final Reckoning coming out this weekend, which I'm very excited for. I mean, it's one of the most like ridiculously plotted franchises out there. I just go for okay, what crazy stunt is Tom Cruise going to do in this one? And that's not to say there isn't solid writing in some of them, not all of them, but there are some really good character moments. And Fallout is still my favorite, and I think is pretty universally loved as like the number one for most people. But yeah, it has, some highs, some lows, but it is a consistently enjoyable, over the top action movie franchise, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the final one on screen. And also, Josh, I know I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I was wondering if you knew about it yet, but there's a How I Met Your Mother rewatch podcast that I'm listening to every week, hosted by Josh Radnor and then Craig Thomas, the co-creator. So I highly recommend, because I know you're a huge fan of the show as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I was struggling with whether or not I want to, because I love Scrubs and I loved the rewatch for a while, but then there was some stuff they revealed about some episodes that kind of ruined the episodes for me. That I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to just let it stand on its own? Which is also how I feel about the show we're going to talk about today, where I'm like, do I want to watch Young Gemstones, or do I think that this show's perfect as is and I don't want to risk anything spoiling it? I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know. But I'm tempted, and I probably will end up watching that, listening to that, because I just love How I Met Your Mother too much.
That's the thing. It's just really good insight. It's more a celebration and like of the show, and like analyzing like why people love it so much, and a reflective look. Yeah,
which also, I don't want to get stuck on this, but also I might do it for the other reason of How I Met Your Mother gets harder to watch the more culture progresses, and you realize how some of those stuff just was not okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I still want to enjoy the show. So maybe someone just doing a little bit of apologetics would help me.
And they do address that. They're like, we know some stuff has not aged well. And I mean, it was a different time, and a different state of TV too.
Yeah. Which, that's true of most things, except for specifically Green Day's American Idiot. That just gets better every year somehow. It gets better every single year.
Yeah.
Evan, where are we at, man?
I'm good, man. I'm still riding the high off of Andor season 2. I'm still chatting about it online and stuff with friends. It's pretty busy because we're down to the last a week or so of school for the kids, so trying to wrap that up. My podcasts are still going strong. There's I keep getting that apologist / Bible scholar Wesley Huff in my feed, and because he's making waves, and I'm like, why am I seeing this? And then all of a sudden I see my friend from when I was in high school commenting on something. I'm like, oh wow. So I kind of reconnected with a friend through that, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's actually how we met Evan, is because he commented on some of those other podcasts. I was like, wait a minute, we're in relationship with like some of these, and let's talk to Evan. And I'm like, actually, I really like this guy. And
there you go.
Here we are. Now we're friends. That's how it works.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
The podcast world is wild. Speaking of the podcast world and Bible scholars, another show that's going to be maybe a limited run, maybe a seasonal run, we'll see, on our network, the Anazal Podcast Network. Christian Ashley and myself are going to be going through a book about a divine genocide. Yeah, we're looking at it's a 4-view book. I don't remember the title at the top of my head right now, but you can be looking for it. The title of our podcast on it is going to be Turning the Page on Divine Violence or Divine Genocide. I haven't decided which of those two yet.
Cool.
But we do have some biblical scholars and stuff lined up to help us do our review of this book. We're going to be going through chapter at a time, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow.
So be on the lookout for that.
I will.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good time. Maybe we'll jump on afterwards to be like, and here's why this guy in my congregation, Joshua Noel, is a heretic now. We'll see. No. Who knows what you'll say.
It's a long table with many voices, but you have been known to be the one with the bad opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if that tracks.
Yeah. What's fun, from what I can tell, and I haven't got too much into the book now, Trimper Longman III is on there, and he's a friend of mine, as well as Pete Enns, for those who know Pete Enns.
Wow.
He is pretty conservative in my book, but I think he's supposed to be the progressive view of the four on there. So I'm like,
oh, geez,
I might have an interesting time getting through this. We'll see. I know that view 1 I strongly disagree with, and if that's a good lore for you guys, be looking for that podcast, Turning the Page, on we'll say Divine Violence for now, and if I change the name, you'll know. But With that, I do want to say, if you want to help us get those golden mics we talked about, again, you can support our show, be one of the sponsors on Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. Today, we're going to shout out Jonathan Augustin. Thank you, Jonathan. We might even give you your own golden mic once we get to that like $1 million a month patron goal, you know. And remember, guys, if you want your own shout out like Jonathan, you too can support our show for $3 a month on one of those three platforms: Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. $3 a month is less than I spend on energy drinks, and I believe in you guys. If half of our listeners do it, as Will says, we'll be rich. I think that's what he said. Just like the Righteous Gemstones, we're jumping into the episode now. I want to know, before we get to the show, the good stuff. This show, for those who, I'm going to give like a brief premise, and we'll do a full premise later. It's like televangelist, rich pastors. Like if you follow like the Instagram account, like what was it, the pastors with cool shoes, whatever it's called. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Sneakers, the preachers and sneakers.
Preacher sneakers. Yeah. These are the kind of people who would probably be on that Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, they're rich people. They're kind of assholes. This is going to be an explicit episode, Joshua. Make sure you put that in the notes. But like that's who we're dealing with. They kind of, for me, they verge on like mega pastor, televangelist, and then like the absurd Pentecostals and someone who grew up Pentecostal. I'm like, I see some of it, and some of it I'm like, no, you guys are, that's not really what it's like. Y'all missed that a little bit. And then some of the stuff I'm like, no, unfortunately, that's pretty spot on. We also do have to do a disclaimer. One of our other hosts, Elizabeth Clyde, is married to Taylor Clyde, who is a worship leader for Faith Assemblies of God in Somerville area. That is technically a megachurch. I like them. I support them, even though theologically I very much disagree with them. I don't think they're the kind of people the show's talking about from my experiences there. But I do want you guys to know that we do have a connection to a megachurch. Before we talk about anything else, because I don't want to be hypocrites. So with all that said, I think we should get into, before we get to the show, our own experiences. So especially, I hate to say this. Now, guys, remember, I grew up, a lot of my early church years was in Florida at a Pentecostal church in Assemblies of God. So when I say this, I don't mean no disrespect. But Evan, as someone who lives in Florida, I feel like you probably got some wild stories.
Yeah.
What's some of the wildest stuff you've seen in church?
I grew up for my formative years was very Pentecostal. I remember the whole scene, and then just one Sunday.
What if we went to the same church?
I was wondering that, and then just one day in the 90s, we went to a Baptist church without any warning. I was like, wait, what is this place? This is so boring, but it's kind of cool. Like. So I grew up in the Baptist, in the Southern Baptist churches in South Florida, in that whole scene, and when it merged into the non-denominational flavor, I stuck with it. We were still there, and in my 20s, pretty much all of my 20s was used up. Being taken advantage of because I have a bunch of spare time and I'm kind of an adult and I have some skills. So I gave my skills to the church for a long time. And so I have a lot of crazy stories about, I don't want to get off. Oh, what was the question?
Just some of your craziest stories.
Yeah. Like, tigers on stage. There's a whole
wait, what?
A tiger, yeah. Uh-huh.
Praise God. Okay. Yep. That's all. I don't need any context.
He because I would serve, and the pastor was very much into Walt Disney at the time, and he heard that one story about Walt Disney bringing in the elephant to the meeting for something, so he thought he would bring the tiger. I'm like, bro, you're not Walt Disney.
Yeah, sure. Same thing.
There's 24-hour dominoes, a tournament on stage. I saw Batman fall from the roof like 20 feet up.
I didn't know you saw me do that.
Yeah. Now I know who that was. But there's a whole scene. And the Righteous Gemstones is a exaggeration of it, but it's not too far off. There's season waffle.
Yeah, I never had any tigers. I kind of want to go last because I was pursuing ordination in a Pentecostal church for a while. So I actually have some stories of myself that I want to tell on, and maybe add a little bit of nuance to this before we get into it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go last if that's okay with Kevin and Will. Will, as a pastor, I'm excited to hear some of yours, although you grew up Lutheran, so I don't know how crazy. Did y'all ever bring like a shark on stage or anything?
No, like the craziest thing that would happen in a Lutheran church growing up is like someone would clap after a sermon and everyone would look at that person and be like, what are you doing? Why are you clapping? So yeah, the controversy and scandal of clapping after a music, presentation or offertory by the choir, that was debated within my church, the chosen frozen of the Lutherans. No, I didn't grow up megachurch or kind of Pentecostal or charismatic. It was Lutheran through and through. But my first call was in Florida, South Florida, and our Lutheran church there. I was fresh out of seminary. The people who have been there been a long time, built up that church. God bless them. But they were surrounded by a lot of kind of mega churches and kind of South Florida amusement park, Disney-fied Americana around them. So it was like, how are we going to get attention? How are we going to be like the church down the road? So I feel like that church, and I was taking notes. I was looking at a distance, and as a youth pastor there, how do you compete with the church down the road? How do you get attention? How do you compete? Yeah. How do you compete? And so that church did some things where they were, and for me, fresh out of seminary, idealistic young pastor, I was kind of like, what are we doing? But I did see there, I guess it wasn't crazy, but at one point, because it's South Florida, you don't experience winter or the seasons. During a holiday season, they did have a fake snow machine blow what it looked like snow in the sanctuary while worship was going on. And I'm like, okay, these kind of special effects in church is something that I grew up with and really took me back. But yeah, that whole model of marketing Jesus for the benefit of people's souls was something that was a little new to me when I was down in Florida.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, what about you, man?
So I grew up Southern Baptist, so I have plenty of all kinds of just, obviously fire and brimstone messages, all that, but not a mega church at the time. I do have experience with mega church, unfortunately. I was never like a member of one, but like kind of like drifted around like churches, so I was like sort of like going to one for a while. But in the church I grew up in, it was just, it was very rigid conservative culture. And one of the things I just thought of that I laugh at is, so like around Halloween, you couldn't say that it was Halloween. They had to like make up alternative names for like the celebrations around that time. I think they called them like Fall Festival or whatever. And like what I just remember one year, like, you couldn't wear any Harry Potter costumes or anything like that. Right, exactly. But I just remember when I was like, I dressed up as Terminator one year and no one said anything. So like I was like there. I think exactly. I was like in high school there, and I was like, and no one said anything there. But if I had brought a wand, that would have been the end of the world. But yeah, so I had that. I'd say, we didn't have any like lavish productions and stuff, but I was in some very cringy church plays. I'm sure we could all relate to those. Where. Oh gosh, the dialogue you have to read at those. And I mean, because I still did them because I was a theater kid growing up. So like I would do the church ones and then I would do like actual plays at school. But yeah, just doing some of those were quite hilarious. And then my mega church experience is just like when we left that church when I graduated high school, due to a very long story there. But I'd gone to a megachurch for a while in my 20s but I was never really connected there. And then my nail in the coffin with that was when a public scandal leaked about it. So, and then I wound up at a very progressive church now that I love, and I love the people there. So it's been a full cycle for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Will has one more thing.
Yeah, I will say that as Lutherans don't really exemplify megachurch model of church and worship, every 3 years, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America does a national youth gathering. And so all the youth in America gather in like a big dome to do church together and workshops and hear speakers. And so that's kind of Lutherans, ELCA Lutherans doing megachurch model. And so there are like worship praise band, big banners and movie screens and things like that. And I don't know if there's not too many cringy things, but it's not what we usually do on a Sunday morning. That's kind of our way we do mega church, is gathering in this one place as national youth gathering. But I will say there was one time during like Holy Communion in a dome full of like 20,000 kids and youth and adults. Somebody ended up like R&B rapping the communion liturgy of the Lord be with you. Yeah. And also with you. And I just kind of looked to my neighbor like, what are we doing? And I was like, the youth liked it. So I wasn't trying to be too judgy, but yeah, the whole hip hop rap, the communion liturgy was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I ever heard the Apostles' Creed was in rap form. So
there you go.
We don't do creeds as Pentecostals or Baptists, really.
And I love that Kevin wasn't allowed to be a wizard, but he was allowed to be like an AI killer robot. I love that.
They didn't turn an eye there.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably just foretelling of our own times, where conservative churches love AI now, but still hate magic. You can have an AI program that might, take over the world or feign spirituality in what I would say is probably a sacrilege kind of way. But if you have a rock that you believe has some spiritual significance, even if you grew up Greek Orthodox, the mystic Christians, you're obviously Satan. Yeah, but my experience, we'd be here all day if I went through everything. I'm going to try and give some of my high and low lights. I grew up in the kind of family where we push the afterlife so much that like this life doesn't matter. So for a majority of my life, everything was about God, heaven, and I so fully believed things. Like I would see someone like just, we'll say, I'm trying to think of somebody. TJ's fun to pick on because he doesn't care and won't listen to the podcast. TJ told a lie, and I never heard him forgive. Like I would just hound him because I was so constantly afraid that people I cared for were going to end up in hell. Like a genuine belief. So like, it wasn't like I was just trying to be an asshole, but that does make those beliefs often turn you into an asshole, So that's just where I was. So just going through some highlights throughout, how I grew up. I remember there was a time in Florida with the Assemblies of God. We had like a big state conference we went to. The first time I spoke in tongues was there because I wanted to be like my dad, which I do believe in speaking in tongues, but I also think that's probably why it happened that time, because I just wanted to be like my dad who spoke in tongues every service.
I know the feeling.
I remember that a lot of the guys stuck into the girls' dressing room, and then some of the girls got in the guys' dressing room, and the girls were apprehended and the guys really weren't, because, girls shouldn't be temptress or something. And we're like 10 years old. We weren't even doing it for that kind of reason. We were doing it because like someone told us there's a difference between guy and girl, and I want to know what it was. That's literally all it was. But I remember that kind of thing. I remember growing up in like those big kind of services. I do remember one time seeing someone take a bunch of like TVs and video games on stage with a baseball bat and just smashing them all. And like the point of the message was supposed to be, here's the thing though, like it was someone I know and I care about, and their point of their message is they were trying to teach us that like every second counts and you don't need to be wasting on this stuff. You should be spending it on something more valuable. And I'm like, as an adult looking back, I'm like, I kind of agree with what you're trying to say, but also, man, that was a lot of wasted money and resources, and we could have done good stuff with that probably. But wanted to make a point, wanted to do a whole show. Even myself, I remember in middle school, because, I grew up in this kind of environment, kind of learning, like, if you say you felt something from the Spirit, most people just kind of go along. So I remember telling a few girls that I felt like God wants us together,
Oh, man.
It wasn't like necessarily like I was being evil. It was just like this was the world we lived in, and that's how you spoke, which I look back on and I'm like, that was evil, but I wasn't trying to be evil. I don't know if that makes sense. And then I remember when I was trying to pursue ordination myself, because again, feared of everyone going to hell one day. I remember, picking up like Andy Stanley books, different stuff like that, and them teaching like, it wasn't just like you're competing with the other churches. It's if you do something visual on church, people are more likely to remember the message, which I remember the message of a guy smashing TVs. it's not wrong. So I remember a few times I preached, I actually wore a pair of Nikes once. And I remember the name of the message was Just Do It. I don't remember what I was preaching on, but I do remember that being a thing. And me kind of doing some of this stuff, genuinely believing like if you do some of this, is going to make the message land better, that kind of stuff. But also in that same environment, I remember praying for an animal with a broken limb and seeing it kind of set right before us while we're praying. I remember myself when I had my accident where I like died temporarily, kind of having a vision of like my friend going through a divorce and having this feeling of like, hey, if you go now, he's going to take over your ministry while he's going through this. And I came back and a month later, he got a divorce. And it's just kind of like, I don't want to both ands it. There's a lot of evil, but I just want to say, like, as someone who's gone through it, I actually do understand where a lot of this stuff is going through. As someone who lives in Charlotte, I'm right here where Elevation is. I know the evils of Stephen Furtick and how much he wants to put on a show and compete with all the other churches and how hard that makes it for other churches who are doing genuine ministry. But I also know Love Week does so much good in our community. I also know a lot of these small communities that are meeting together under Elevation are really forming some strong relationships. And I'm like, yeah, so I don't want to both ands it, but I also feel like we'd be remiss if we just dismissed it all as this is bad, you know?
Hey, podcast fam. Want to stay even more connected with the show? We've got you covered. Check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we're posting exclusive content and bonus videos and fun updates that you won't get anywhere else. From sneak previews of upcoming episodes to bonus content, our social accounts are the best way to keep the conversation going. Plus, it's a great spot for you to interact with other listeners and share your thoughts. We love hearing from you. When you follow us, it helps us grow and continue bringing you the content that you love. Whether it's a funny poll, a quick clip from today's episodes, or just random thoughts, you'll feel more plugged into everything we're doing. So go ahead and hit that follow button on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's one more way to be a part of the show and keep the good vibes flowing. Thanks for being a part of the family, and we can't wait to see you there.
100%. I completely agree with you because I'm in that space too where my experience was so extreme and my thoughts were like that too. But then when you heal from that yourself, you can look back on that and see the good in it. And that's my test with it all now. It's like, sure, the sermons might be just to get people through the door, but they are providing a service. They are doing good, and they are doing good to the community and everything. So I feel
sermon illustrations and trying to make relevant God's word for a present day context. I think finding ways to have people connect or have people remember your message. There's nothing wrong with powerful sermon illustrations or props and those kinds of things. I think, but there's a time when you can take it too far and it can get cringy and you're doing it for attention or doing it for the wrong reasons. And so, I think that's what kind of people do. The human condition, our fallen condition, being imperfect and sinners. What's our motivation? What's behind all this? So I think I've used sermon illustrations for children's messages, and we just came off of May 4th, and I used Star Wars as kind of a prop to illustrate a depth of spirituality that we're finding in our fandom. And my wife warned me. She was like, "Hey, don't take it too far. Don't make it cringy. Don't become like a megachurch. This, doing all these things. Use it in a way that's still reverent and points to Jesus, not drawing attention to yourself or other things." And I think with Righteous Gemstones, Danny McBride has said in interviews, I've heard him on podcasts and things, talk about like they really don't want to parody Jesus or pick on Jesus or say that religion is bad or Christianity is bad, but sometimes the people that follow these religions, that follow Jesus, are the absurdity behind it. That's what they're parodying. The personalities and the people that follow Jesus that take it too far, that's who they're really trying to shine a light on and hold a mirror to, of the absurdity of some of these mega churches and what they're up to. And so I think with the show itself, there is a depth to family and relationships and love and what they're truly hungering for and what they're longing for. And you'll never find, even though, yes, it's rated R, is gratuitous cussing and sex and full frontal nudity. And this show is not for everyone. everyone and not for all Christians, but or any people of faith, all people. But I think if you go into it knowing that it's rated R, knowing that is going to take things really far and cross lines in certain ways, but if you look behind of what's going on in the comedy that will illustrate real world problems and what people commodify Jesus or the church or religion for, I think that's where you can see the critique and the commentary on present day, mainly America, and how we had the biggest, the loudest, the most popular, the most attended, the most people, the most money. They're the most successful. The prosperity gospel in its full, without any hidden agendas, but it's full frontal prosperity gospel. That's what this is. Full frontal prosperity gospel. That I think that's what they're trying to say. Whether you agree with his humor or not, I think that's what's going on in the show. And I think in our churches that two truths can hang out in the same room together. Two things can be right. Two things can kind of hang out together and have a dialogue. And I think that can go with what we grew up with in these religious circles.
Yeah. Two more quick things before we get into it, because I do want to mention, and part of it's because I want to recommend something for people. One is I'm trying to think of how to do this. I'm just going to lean into one and maybe forget the other. I'm going to be explicit with this because I think it's correct to be. There's a church in Greenville, South Carolina, Legacy, that I've seen do a lot of harm, and it's affected a lot of people personally to me. I've seen where they made up stuff accusing people so they could kick them out because basically someone disagreed with the head pastor and his ego was just too big for that. A lot of the stuff they teach is pretty close to prosperity gospel, even though it's not quite there. But because their church keeps growing, the denomination I grew up in keeps supporting them anyway. And that's part of why I didn't want to be associated with it anymore. Because I can deal with some theological disagreements, but supporting something like that, I'm like, that church to me, I would say is just evil. Because I feel like you got to call stuff what it is. Maybe I am biased because some of my close friends were kicked out for reasons that had to do with this pastor's ego, including a friend of mine who a lot of people might know, Shama Marema. He's talked with me on a podcast about this before. He started a podcast, Church Stories. He's done some stuff with the VeggieTales and Fish Visher now, the VeggieTales remix, the Chick-fil-A song. He does a lot of stuff like that. And he branched off. Originally, he was a youth pastor at Legacy back when they were called College Park. So I've seen a lot of this damage and what it can do and how hard it is for some people to heal from it. So that's just one thing I'm holding on to with all of this, is just kind of remembering that stuff happens, that makes sense.
I think you mentioned that, Joshua, with ego, and again, tied a little bit to, we'll get more into Righteous Gemstones, but I think you see what is it that the family wants or draws them together, or what's the purpose? You think Amy Lee and the genuineness of her wanting to do good ministry, but when ego and money and power and influence, come into play, humans are going to human. And I think that's what's going on. And when we see churches around us, whether they're small, medium, or mega, the leaders who are in positions of leadership, when their ego gets in the way and it becomes about them, that's when it goes off rails. That's when it becomes harmful. That's when it becomes less about Jesus and about who they are and their identity and their ego. And I've seen that come into play many, many times. And I have a great family and friends and wife who hopefully will not let me become that way, even though I'm tempted all the time.
Yeah. And and it's, it's not just Pentecostal churches. Other churches have this stuff too. Again, Pentecostals do a lot of good. A lot of the best stuff that's happened to me in my life are because time spent in prayer in those organizations, or people who spoke to me, particularly smaller ones like up where my granny lived in like the hills of Virginia. Some of those Pentecostal churches are some of the best people I know go to those. So no diss on them, but we are going to diss churches like the ones ran by the Gemstones. Kevin, could you tell us a little bit, what is the premise of the Righteous Gemstone show? And then let's just each say what drew us into the show. Because as Christians, maybe people are surprised that we were we want to watch this thing where we're talking about how crappy the church is.
Yeah, so the Righteous Gemstones follows the Gemstone family, which the patriarch, played by John Goodman, is Eli Gemstone. He is a really famous megachurch pastor in South Carolina that has built kind of this megachurch empire over the course of decades. He's a widower. His wife, Amy Lou, died back in when the kids, I forget what year in the show, but when his 3 kids were a little bit younger, she was sick, but she was instrumental to his life and to the family's role. And then he has 3 adult children: Jesse, played by Danny McBride; Judy, played by Edie Patterson; and Kelvin, played by Adam Devine. And each of them have their own immaturities and their own wrestling conflicts internally. But the knowing that at the beginning of the show that Eli is getting older and probably approaching retirement at some point, the question on his mind is, who will inherit his megachurch empire? Much in the same way that we have like HBO Succession. It's a very different tone here, but there are parallels to that show. So Eli is the head patriarch of this megachurch family empire that he built with his late wife, Amy Lou, who was instrumental to Eli and to the whole family. And they have 3 now adult children, or Eli has them now. Jesse, played by Danny McBride; Judy, played by Edie Patterson; and Kelvin, played by Adam Devine. And each of them have their own immaturities. And the question that is present at the beginning of the show is who will inherit the empire when Eli retires, because it kind of sets that up from the beginning. But each of them kind of have their own, not just immaturities, but also scandals. And in the pilot episode, there's a big scandal involving Jesse regarding a sex tape that a rival is threatening him with. And so that could, potentially bring down the entire empire. And so it's that's one of the central conflicts introduced at the beginning. But also another key aspect of the show is that it plays with different kind of antagonists each season, and different stories that all challenge the notion of, how can the Gemstones live on and will their legacy survive? But it introduces kind of new villains, new conflicts each season. And then also a key player that we've mentioned already is Uncle Baby Billy, who is Eli's brother-in-law. He was Amy Lou's brother, played by Walton Goggins, and he also has a key role playing in the evolution of the Gemstone Church, and you get to see a lot of great, not just comic relief with them, but some really interesting arcs there too. So that's kind of an overview. And as far as what got me into the show, I had known about it for a while. I wish I had jumped on it sooner. I only started watching late last year, and I got hooked right away and binged the first few seasons, and then I was able to watch the final season live as it aired. But yeah, I had heard about it. It sounded funny, but and I had known Danny McBride through some movies, and then he had co-written the last Halloween movie saga with David Gordon Green, who was another collaborator on this show. But I hadn't delved into his TV yet, and I was amazed from the beginning of oh my gosh, he's such a good writer. He's such a good filmmaker. I was just really enamored with the storylines here and the Coen brothers influence and the merging of comedy, horror, and drama and satire. And like you said, Josh, it's not a takedown of Christianity or religion, but it satirizes the church's obsession with money and power, which I think is very relevant. But it makes sure just to humanize the characters.
Yeah. For myself, I think you did good with like as far as the premise and stuff goes. I really got into it. I was bored one day and the wife was at home and I was on HBO and I knew nothing about it. My brain was like, oh, this is going to be the absolute worst preachers ever. And every now and then I like listening to stuff that makes me mad so that I remember why I don't want to be like other people. And then I was like, oh, this isn't televangelist. And then it was televangelist. It was just a show about televangelist and it was comedy. And I was like, wow, this is not the kind of comedy I usually go for. For me, it feels kind of like Will Ferrell kind of style comedy, which I watch almost nothing with him in it on as much as I can help it. I just don't like Will Ferrell very much. But I I don't know. I guess this
Josh
one
with the
because
bad opinions.
Yeah, Josh with bad opinions. But this one, I guess, just because it was more relevant to my own life, was just funnier because I'm like, I get it. I understand why we're making fun of this. Yeah. Anyway, Will, what about you? What drew you in?
Yeah, I'm a big Danny McBride fan. I like him on Eastbound and Down. Danny McBride is Jesse, and he's kind of the founder and writer of the show. And so he did Eastbound and Down, which was filmed down in Wilmington. Fun fact, he lived across the street from my parents at Wrightsville Beach one whole summer when he was filming a season of Eastbound and Down. And it gave him a head nod in the driveway one day when I was walking out surfing. I was like, oh, Danny McBride, what's up? He gave me a head nod. I ignored him, didn't ask for his autograph. And then he did Vice Principals. And when I saw this come up on HBO and I heard another podcast, some Lutheran friends who have a preaching podcast, they were talking about, they talk about what they're geeking out on a little before they get into the text, talked about Righteous Gemstones and some of the funny moments. And I was like, I got to watch this, and dove right in. And yeah, there are moments when it is kind of convicting and you're like, oh man, it's cringy. I hope people don't say, when I was watching this with my daughter, I was like, I just want to remind you, this is not our brand, right? And she goes, yeah, Dad, I know. And I'm like, okay, so I get a little protective of my religion when it comes to that. Not all preachers are like this, but I get the Saturday Night Live skit parody, what they're trying to illustrate with what's going on. So I was on board, and it was appointment television every Sunday night.
Yeah. Because I know you're going to have to leave early in case you don't get the chance. I need to know favorite character, favorite scene, favorite joke, favorite song, because you have a lot of good songs that you like from this.
Oh my gosh. All right. So it's hard for me not to pick Uncle Baby Billy because he just so much. He lives rent free in my head. I quote him all day long in my head. I love his reels. But kind of a under the radar, kind of sneaky, great character for me on the show is BJ, Judy's partner and husband.
Yeah.
He is so funny the way he kind of genuinely asks questions and seems kind of innocent, and he's with this kind of obnoxious person. All of them are great and make me laugh and have great moments. But I would say him and that season 2, when he gets baptized and the build up to that and like the family skepticism of him and him trying to be like a part of the family, but he's really an outsider. And the fact that his family is from Asheville, North Carolina. And so the rest of the family is skeptical towards them because they must be atheists or heathens because they're from Asheville, North Carolina.
Correct.
Makes me laugh really, really hard. And then even the final season with him getting like a helper monkey and being in a wheelchair because he fell pole dancing and then going into depression because the family's not paying him any attention, but then how he rebounds and there's a little redemption arc for him. I just love him a lot. So, and the actor Tim Baltz, is that how you say his name? Baltz?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Liked one of my comments on his page. He posted something I was early in his chat and he gave me a thumbs up and a heart.
Nice.
So yeah, thanks Tim.
Nice.
Thanks Tim.
Favorite song?
Anything that Baby Billy does, that whole changes and him singing that song. And the fact that he didn't like the actor who's playing young Jesus. So he's going to do it himself, and he's old and he has a receding hairline and glasses and still plays Jesus with like these big gaudy rings on his fingers. And it's fantastic. It's comedy gold. And now this type of humor, Will Ferrell, this humor is right up my alley. It's everything that makes me laugh. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Oh man. Evan, what brought you to this particular series? Yeah.
This was a recommendation from a coworker of mine. He knew that I was a church guy. I was religious, and we had similar tastes in movies and shows, and he brought me into Vice Principals, and I love that show. And he goes, well, they're making a show about churches. And I'm like, really? So I got into it, and I thank him for doing that because it's perfect. Like Danny McBride did great, and his humor is like Will Ferrell's pretty much. Yeah. So, but yeah. I thank my coworker for bringing me onto this show.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my wife to watch because as much as she doesn't care about I don't think she would care about the particular world it's about, but it's definitely her kind of sense of humor too. Yeah. Will said he had one more thing he wanted to say too, right?
Yeah. So the final season, I loved how they really thought that they could have wrapped up with season 3. It was a perfect ending, and like kind of the ghost of Amy Lee, like looking at them and kind of being proud of her family that's kind of come together through adversity. But they were having too much fun, so I think they wanted to do one final season. There were other seasons and scenarios I liked a little better, but I thought it still had just some fantastic moments. And when Calvin started his church Prism, which was a more progressive example of a megachurch and kind of the spectrum of diversity and human sexuality, I couldn't help but think like, oh, dude, that's the Algae Beer Camp. They're parodying not only megachurches and fundamentalism and the scandals behind those things, but they're also parodying a progressive church. And some of the things that were going on there, I was like, dude, that is some of the progressive Lutheran circles. That is some of Theology Beer Camp. So nobody's safe. Kind of like South Park. They pick on everybody. Nobody is safe from their parody and coming at you. So kudos to the writers who understand that there's a breadth and depth to all Christianity, not just one archetype of megachurches.
Yeah. I want to say on that before we move along with the outline a little bit, because it is something that I that interests me that this series comments on. In season 4, you see it with Prism and kind of the more LGBTQ friendly churches. As season 2, I think it is, maybe season 3. I think it was season 2. Judy with like women in ministry and like women getting more of a voice was kind of brought up. Here's what I thought was interesting about the commentary that still bothers me, and it's actually what kept me from becoming more progressive for a really long time. You do have a lot of churches that seem like they're just doing it because they want more people in or want to be better accepted by the culture. And I think that's what this is parodying, where it's like, oh, well, if we have more women, more people will come to our church. Or if we do this thing that the culture is doing and start affirming people, it's that. And people like me want more like reasoning. And that's kind of like part of my, like, I did that thing where I overcorrected when I started leaving Pentecostalism, where I became all intellectual. And then I read, I think it was Francis Chan that was like Forgotten God. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We are still saying that we believe that the living God that created the universe has something to do with me personally. It's kind of absurd to think that some spiritual things can't happen. I need that kind of basis, like where it's not just, oh, hey, this is what the world's doing and this seems right or this feels right. Doesn't it just seem wrong to say we don't want to let people love each other? But you get like some strong intellectual arguments from like Pete Enns or different people like that. And I'm like, okay, that's the kind of stuff I want. One of the people I respect the most, who is still conservative, Trimper Longman III, he writes a book like about Old Testament controversies, and he verbatim says, I want to support same-sex marriage, but from what I see in the text and what I believe about the Bible, I can't make this make sense. And that's where I'm like, I disagree with you, but he's being intellectually honest. And that's what bothers me about a lot of this kind of stuff. And what makes the show really complicated is like there's some points where they're just not intellectually honest at all. They're just doing what brings them more people in. But then there's moments where you see their personal lives, and it really does seem like they have to believe something about this, but also they're able to change their beliefs in order to make more money. And I'm like, where? Huh? Do you believe it or do you not believe it? And I never quite figured that out.
I hear you 100%. What I like about this show is that you have Jesse's kids who really try to hold him accountable to what they believe. They see the ridiculousness of it. So you have, you have, because you have Gideon who wants to be an actor, but he genuinely wants to follow his granddad. And maybe there's something there that he wants to become like a legitimate pastor. His dad's looking at him like, hey man, you're a horrible preacher there in that final season. You got to liven this up a little bit, but he really wants to be like a genuine thing. But then you have like, his son Pontius, he named his kid Pontius, and he's like the rebellious kid who really looks at him like, you guys are all like hypocrites and wrong, and I can't stand you. So that tension of the children looking up to them. So you not only have the children, Kelvin, Jesse, and Judy looking at their dad and critiquing him. They have their own children looking at their parents and going, hey, what are you doing this? Why are you doing this for? We love the money. We love the attention. We love the lifestyle. But what's really going here with kind of the authentic aspect of your faith or religion here and call them hypocrites. Yeah. I love that aspect of it. And I think you're right that being honest and authentic about it, it's just fantastic writing.
Yeah. What Will was talking about, it also gets to something Kevin mentioned that he loved about the last season on one of our What's News episodes. With that first episode, And that's kind of what's interesting is you see like generation for generation, it seems like the Gemstone started off as like this guy stealing someone else's identity, just using ministry to make money. And it kind of feels like they keep doing that generation to generation, but they're also maybe gaslighting themselves into actually believing it at the same time. And it's so like, what? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? I don't think they know. I really don't think they even know if they really believe this or not, which is fair. You know, a lot of times in my own Christianity, you know, I don't do it for money. I don't make no money. I still am like, do I actually believe this? I'm not sure sometimes, you know? Yeah.
Again, I think that's what separates the show from making it, you know, turning the characters into caricatures. They really explore the depth.
Hello there, listener. This is Evan Garcia, and I just wanted to jump in here to remind you and to let you know of our Facebook groups and our Discord server. These are great communities where you can post and share memes and talk with the hosts, and we have votes and some polls for future episode topics and fun interactions with our host. So just wanted to remind you that we are focused on community with you listeners, and we love each and every one of you guys listening. Thank you guys.
So yeah, like Bradley Cooper's character is a great example as the original patriarch, Elijah Gemstone in the Civil War era. Yeah, he's just doing it for money. He, you know, steals a already corrupt preacher's identity, and, you know, has no idea what he's doing. But then he starts to really explore, you know, and feels a spiritual connection there, and has that prayer moment with the soldiers who are about to be executed. And, you know, it has this really fascinating character dynamic. And yeah, Joshua, I think that's absolutely true. Is it points to something of even the most devout, you know, people of faith are still going to have doubts and are still going to have internal struggles. That I really like how the show explores that. Yeah,
no, it's interesting stuff. But all right, Will's already done this bit, so I'm going to throw it to Evan first. Who, if you had to pick one character, because like the thing about the show is, to me, it's less about the overall story and more about each individual character. Like it does a really good job at character building. Evan, if you had to pick one character that you were like, their character arc was the best character arc, who would you go with?
The best character arc as opposed to my favorite character arc, because those are two different things.
Whatever feels best in your heart.
Yeah,
let the spirit guide you.
I don't know. Yeah. A part of me, like, there were so many times where I related to John Goodman, to what's his name?
Eli.
To Eli, where the fact of like his kids are just so ridiculous. His kids are just on a personal level, they're kind of assholes. They're gross. They're bad people. But it's like, and that went with me too, because I felt for him, because that's kind of out of his control. Like sometimes his kids are not the best representation of you, and he didn't have the best past. But sometimes I think about that. Like, what if my kid becomes like a worship pastor and does all this too? Like, what will I think? And that kind of put me in a situation there. But I don't know, they were just, all of them were great. I love the baby Billy. He was the perfect blend of a Billy Graham, a Benny Hinn, and just that perfection of that whole scene of pastors.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it is difficult to pick a favorite. I will say that I can confidently say I was never going to pick Billy as my favorite. I didn't necessarily dislike him. It was just like everybody else for me just stood out more. I feel like I could have done without his bit and been fine. Although I love that season 4, they were like, by the way, he also has a Tesla truck, because of course he would, right?
Oh yeah.
But no, I love Judy and BJ and how they get divorced in season 1, and like how they come back, and how she even gets to a point where like the monkey she gets jealous of, that she's like, actually, I'm gonna bring you back to this. Like you see, I think you see a lot of character growth with Judy.
Yes, true.
Dr. Watson.
Yeah, Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
Are you doing
And like you said,
stuff now?
Eli's a good
Like,
one too.
Come on.
And a lot of this reminds me of The Boys in a way where, like, you know, it's showing that power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So even if you're growing up Christian and you have all this wealth and ability to control things, and if part of your control is people think you're a spiritual authority, it just kind of compounds. And you see that it does corrupt this whole family, it seems like. And I think that's another comment that this show's kind of doing. But if I had to just pick one, again, I love how Eli finally gets to a point in his life where he's like, I don't need this. I just want to be on a boat. And I'm like, I get it, man.
Grow out there.
But in hopes that Kevin says Kelvin, because everybody else said Baby Billy, I'm going to hope that Kevin says Kelvin so that I can say Gideon. Gideon's story, man, where he starts off and he's like estranged from the family. He ran off because he's going to go become like a stunt performer in Hollywood. And like, it turns out in season 1 that he's actually part of this spoiler alert, conspiracy that's going to like undermine the family. And he's going to steal from his own, you know, grandfather, all the stuff. And then gets to a point where he goes to Haiti with his dad and he does a mission, and it doesn't seem like it affects Jesse at all. But for Gideon, I think something changes on that mission trip. But then you see throughout the season, he just kind of grows very gradually. And then in that last season, he's trying to be more like his grandfather. And what's so interesting with his character is like, he's teaching and it's boring, but I'm like, but he's actually doing the version of this that should be done. I think you do that like 15, 20-minute homily. Let's care about the sacraments. I'm like, I don't know. I liked Gideon's story arc, and honestly, I like his preaching the best. Just got to say it, man. It doesn't need to be showy. Just teach what's there, dude. So
I'm also very excited for that actor to play Jimmy Olsen in Superman.
That's right.
Is he Jimmy Olsen?
Yes.
Fantastic.
And
Praise
it's a
God.
perfect
Yeah,
casting.
that's great.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, please say Kelvin. What's your favorite? What character arc you like on?
No, definitely Kelvin.
Yes.
I mean, I think we all love Baby Billy for the comedic relief and Walt Goggins' performance, but as far as the character who I related to the most, like, not only because his name is one letter away from me, but like, but I'm the youngest of 3, and I also have an older brother and sister, and like, you know, I mean, in Kelvin's arc, and you know, just like I come from a family where I'm very close to my family and everything, but like, you know, like a lot of them are like sports enthusiasts, particularly my dad and brother, and I'm not at all. I always had like geeky, you know, theater and movie and comic interests and stuff like that make it kind of my own. So I related to that a lot. But I also really like Kelvin's arc of, okay, you're introduced to him and Keith at the beginning of the series, and you're like, okay, are they lovers? Are they like, what's kind of going, you know, like this guy? And then it's like, this was one of the more fascinating, like, you know, mysteries revealed in season 4, when they do the Young Gemstones episode there, where you learn that, so, I mean, yeah, he was always, he was aware of his sexuality early on, but what kind of scared him away was this arc involving Michael Rooker's character, who was became a rival of Eli, and he wore a mask, broke into their house, and this is one night where Kelvin had stayed home while the other kids go out to dinner, and so and while he's looking at magazines and stuff, and which I thought the best part was like he's reading a magazine that said like 7 more reasons to love Hayden, and I was like Hayden Christensen, I was like I was dying there.
That was so good.
But
so good.
that was awesome. But it's like, okay, and then this like strange, you know, masked man breaks into their house and scares the crap out of them, and he's thinking like, oh, I'm literally having like a demon come into my house because of my sexuality, and that's why he was like repressed for so long.
About that.
And I was like, oh, whoa, that is a like really brilliant like storytelling. I mean, not just a plot device, but it's just like it adds more depth to his character and makes sense for a lot. And so that's why, you know, him and Keith kind of had this like closeted relationship for a long time, and you know, he comes more to explore his identity, and it's not sexuality, but also like his stand. He's the kind of like trying to prove himself of worthy to be a part of like his family's legacy, and that he has talents and stuff, and you know, he's like the hippie youth pastor, and he started all this progressive stuff, but when he becomes top Christ following man, which again is like out of all the plot lines that they came up with this show, it's one of the most absurd, but great. I was dying laughing when they have an award ceremony and everything. So yeah, I love Kelvin's arc. I think Adam Devine gives great performance, and there's so much humor there, but it was one of the more, I think, emotional arcs of any of the characters there. Just seeing his journey throughout the show, and the way he kind of reconciles with his siblings. Because I get as the younger brother, I can relate to being like kind of obnoxious and stuff with my older siblings when I was a kid and all that. And for these three, like my siblings and I have matured a lot, but I know with these characters, a lot of them kind of stay in their own, like immature angles and stuff, even to adulthood. But they work through that and they're able to really come together by the end. And that's what I really liked. But yeah, so Kelvin, I think, has like my favorite arc for me, but I really love all the characters in the show. There are so many that just like really fascinating.
Yeah, no, I loved Kelvin too. That's good stuff. There's so much good in the show. I want to, well, since we gave Will the chance, I want to do this for us, and then I got one more wrap up thing before we get to the actual wrap up. If you had to pick, just real quick, a favorite joke, a favorite scene, and a favorite song from the show, what would it be? I think my favorite joke, as immature as this is, it probably just because of the time I grew up in that I think it's funny, was when the first time that Jesse catches his son and he doesn't quite know what he caught Gideon doing. So he assumes that Gideon's gay for some reason. He's like, oh, you're bi. And then like, he gets confronted and they're like, oh, what do you do? He's like, I love my bi son. And I don't know why that was so funny. I'm like, that's not what this is about at all. Kudos to you. Glad you do. But like, that's not what's happening. So his ignorance there just made that moment particularly funny to me. Favorite scene. What was the other one? Favorite joke? No, that was probably
song.
Favorite joke. So my favorite scene. At first this one irritated me, but I'm going to stick with this. Near the end, Eli's reading a note that his former wife Amy Lee wrote to her best friend that he kind of sees it. It's a whole thing, and it's talking about how like you don't need a perfect ending to wrap stuff up. And it was just, I don't know, for me at first I was like, that's irritating. That's just an excuse because you guys didn't feel like right up. And then the more I think about it, I'm like, no, but that's just life. Like when you lose somebody or like you move away, there's never like, for the most part, you don't look back and go, that was a good finale to that part of my life. It just kind of ended at some point and you don't even realize when it ends a lot of the time. So it went from a moment that I really didn't like to probably my favorite. Favorite song, of course, has to be Misbehavin' from Amy Lee
so
and Bob Billy, Baby Billy. Yeah, that was just, it was a funny Misbehavin'. If you're gonna listen to one song, I think it's got to be that. Kevin, what about you, man?
Okay, so favorite joke. This is actually one of the reasons why it's in the finale. But I think Jesse has some of the best one-liners throughout the show.
Oh my God.
It's
so true.
So when he's in the, what is the club, the Pistols and something society, where they like, it's these like old pastors like in a pistol club. But anyway, he challenges in a duel to the death with one of his rivals there, who's kind of a jerk, and it's in the opening scene, so obviously probably not one of them is not, neither of them are going to die. It's going to joke, and like no one dies in the duel, but he says something along the lines of like, I show mercy to you today, orphan. It's something like that. And there are moments like that where I think I just was about to fall over. The way his delivery is just so dry and impeccable. But yeah, just like, I have mercy on you, orphan. It was just such a Danny McBride moment. Yeah. So that is one of my absolute favorites. And then favorite scene, there's a lot, but also one from the finale, I do like how, as much as I wanted to see Teen Just come to fruition and see a trailer for it and everything like that,
I want the actual
I did really
play to be produced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That would be amazing. But I really did like that Baby Billy decides to just end it and says he says screw TV. I was going to go away because he has this arc of finally seeing what's important and wanting to be with his wife and kids. And it's one of the things from when he's first introduced in season 1 and he has a wife who is like less than half of his age. I was like, okay, this is going to be another guy who he'll probably go through 3 different women before
Yeah.
the show ends. I thought it kind of like touching that he and Tiffany stay together. And they gave actually her more depth than I would have thought originally. I thought that would have been more of a joke kind of thing. And I liked how they evolved that. So by the end of that, when he decides to give up on his dream of, becoming this like, TV sensation, both as like an actor, writer, director, and to spend time with his family. I really like that moment. It was really good. Again, I still want to see Teen Justice a full show
for sure.
At some point, but from a writing perspective, I liked how they ended it there. And then my favorite song, I have it on a YouTube playlist, is the There'll Come a Payday. I love Misbehaving, but the There'll Come a Payday, just so the way they dress up Billy in that scene. He's at this hotel. I was just like, I was dying.
There's no precedence for it. They just
throw you right into it.
We want to do this now.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. Well, and so both of your moments also, like, it speaks. I'm sorry to do this, but one of the things that showed us so well is like, even when they have character growth moments, you never get this moment of like, they were bad and now they're good. One of my other favorite moments in the finale is like, they're praying for this guy who shot them. There's like an old family friend who now they shot and he's going to die. And he's like, just asked for them to pray for him. And this big character growth moment, because like they're praying for someone who tried to kill them. And during the prayer, you see them all kind of realizing like, oh, life's not all about them. But at the same time, while they're doing that, they're praying, being like, and God, forgive him if he ever made it about himself. And like, clearly they're making this prayer about themselves while he's dying.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's so funny because it's like, it is definitely a character growth moment, but they're still kind of oblivious to the fact that they're doing it right then. So it's like, they're never perfect. Evan, what about you, man? Favorite scene, favorite joke, favorite song?
There's so many jokes, man. I don't know. There were so many jokes that were just like quick that went by, and you just like, damn, he really said that or something like that. Like, whoa. But the one scene that came to my mind that captures like how personal the show can really get, despite being so absurd, is the scene where BJ but they go to Outback Steakhouse to kind of fix their relationship because she cheated on the worship guy, the guitarist, and she has to apologize for lying that she's been with like 1 million men and that she's only been with one man. But then she goes to tell the story of her last boyfriend, and it was when she was a teenager and she sexually assaulted her teacher, and she thought that was a real relationship. And I was just like, oh my God, like that arrested development so hard that you don't know what is reality and stuff like that. It just goes to show how extreme they can get, but how I still feel bad for her, like in a therapeutic sense, like dang, like what?
Yeah.
So
the show does a lot.
And the favorite song was the Payday. Payday was good. Payday.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wish I remembered more because I saw it as it was coming out, and it's been a few years since I've seen the first season, so it's like,
yeah, well, it's funny, even the songs that weren't like original songs. I was doing an episode that's going to come out on Memorial Day with Will for Some Joyful Noise, where we're kind of like creating our summer playlist, and so many songs that are on his list are songs that they play like as like background or soundtrack in this show. So like it does have some just good songs, just all around, man.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh man, this is it's a big show. There's a lot that we could have talked about that we didn't. 4 whole seasons. You really could probably do a whole podcast just on this show if you wanted to. We're not going to.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, as far as like trying to sum up thoughts. So I have another thing I do called Dummy for Theology. It was its own podcast. Now it's part of a different podcast, Be Living Water, that I do. And in Dummy for Theology, I always wrap up, instead of 3 practical actions, with 3 questions to keep thinking on, so we can keep on struggling together. It's kind of like the whole gimmick, right? If you watch the show, Christians who aren't necessarily involved in a megachurch, if we had to come up with 3 questions that this left us with to keep thinking about, Well, we can all come up with one, and that'll give us three, and then us and our listeners can part with these three questions. I want to know what it would be. I'll go first, give you time to think about it because this wasn't in the outline. I want to go with when I think about the show and a lot of the flaws and stuff it has. I actually think, and this is kind of weird, maybe part of their problem is these people don't seem to know the Bible. You know, like I know like that's like a really conservative takeaway from this, but I'm like, I actually feel like maybe if they were more Bible focused, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened. So maybe my takeaway question is like, are we spending enough time in the Bible? I know that's super basic and whatever, but I actually think that's probably important to consider when you're thinking about this kind of stuff. Kevin, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's our second question? I
would say it revolves back to kind of the origins of both Danny McBride as a story, because he has said that like the roots of him as a storyteller started when he was growing up in church, and his mom did like puppet shows and stuff at a church. You know, it wasn't like a mega church, but he was able to like learn storytelling through that, and that's what kind of led him to this. And really, you know, getting back to the themes of, you know, satirizing a lot of the church's obsession with money and power, but also humanizing the characters. I would say it's just like, are we listening to each other's stories? Yeah. Because I think that's where we can really break down a lot of barriers and understand each other better, and hopefully reduce because I think all of us, let's be honest, you know, have some lust for power inside of us, and we have a tendency to view people that oppose us as like less than. But ultimately, if we can just like learn from each other and, you know, and listen to each other's stories, we can really better understand each other and grow as people, both spiritually.
Yeah. All right, so we got man, that's a good one. Are we spending enough time in the Bible? Are we listening to each other's stories? Evan, what's our third takeaway question?
I don't know, because you guys kind of stole mine, because I was thinking, both of you guys, I was thinking about that, how the mother was the patriarch of the family, and she set the level for them, and they just assumed Christianity was the way their mom was. So they didn't really know the Bible. They just assumed it culturally. And then you have that other extreme where you only relate to other people's experiences, but you don't get into what the Bible really says. So there's a mix of both, and I think what I'm trying to say is that find out where's your line, where's your threshold to when it becomes about yourself. When does it become about the ego? Because we all have it a little bit different. We all have a little threshold for when that becomes about ourselves, and just pray and ask for discernment to know when you know that line and when to not cross it.
So, like, how much of your faith is about yourself? Kind of deal.
How much of your faith is a mix of both what you take in and what you process, but then what you output is, because you don't want to come across as if like you're saying don't be about yourself, but you are about yourself.
Yeah.
At the same time. So
okay, I like it. We've got the three solid takeaway questions here. And you know, Evan, yours too. We could keep doing this all day, but like it draws me into how like this kind of Christianity is like, oh, you can't have statues of saints, you can't have, you know, these kind of stained glass of things other than like specifically Bible stuff. But then like they're completely fine with like having a little memorial for their mom that they lost, and I'm like, that's the same thing. You know, and it can be used for good or evil. You know, so it's like, are you just part of the culture inheriting it, or do you actually believe the stuff? And yeah, like you said, like is it a mixture? Do we really believe the Bible? Do we listen to each other's stories? I like these questions. I think just struggling with those three alone, can get you a long ways. And there's plenty of others takeaway stuff we could pull from this series. But I think that's a good place to end this as we go ahead and we're going to jump into our wrap up for now. We are going to ask a bonus question after this is over. It's going to be a simple one. Which gemstone would you most like to have attend your church? Will's no longer with us, but I'm a member of Will's church, so I can answer for him. There we go. So it's going to be a fun one. For now, though, we're going to give a recommendation. Doesn't have to be about this. Could be about anything. Kevin, what are you recommending for people right now?
So I was just talking with Evan before recording. I started watching Vice Principals after this, and also a great show that is also a Danny McBride co-creation he stars in. And I think one of the most fascinating things about it is like that both the main characters that Danny McBride and Walton Goggins play are so unlikable, and like you don't root for them at all. Like they're pretty horrible people. But that's what's really fascinating about the way the show is told is you can still be invested in characters who are not likable and you really don't want them to succeed, but you're really invested in the story, and it satirizes male rage and really fits in well into a modern socio-political context. And it's just, it's entertaining in a different way. I think Righteous Gemstones is funnier, and it's meant to, Vice Principals is darker, but it's still brilliant storytelling. So highly recommend if you're looking for something after Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah. No, I love it. Mine, this is probably going to be super simple, basic. The new Doctor Who. I'm going to recommend the new Doctor Who. I'm going to throw out there, the first season that Disney did after the 3 specials with David Tennant that were awesome because of David Tennant. I loved it, but I wasn't like, I don't know if I would recommend this unless you already love Doctor Who, right? But now we're getting near the end of the second season, and really what he did, the season 1 and season 2, since Disney took over, are really just one long season, it seems like. Because he's wrapping up the stuff that he set up in the beginning now, in the same way that Russell T Davies did with like Bad Wolf when he did the first soft reboot of Doctor Who. And it's done in such a way where I think like if you stopped watching after David Tennant, if you stopped watching even after classic Who, the way this picks up, I think it makes perfect sense in the way it's wrapping up. There's a big payoff for anyone who's an old Doctor Who fan or someone who's never seen the show before. And it's a really good way to just bring people in, I think. So I got to recommend these first 2 seasons, Disney Doctor Who with Russell T Davies. He's doing some fantastic stuff. Evan, what's your recommendation today?
My recommendation is a film. I shouldn't call it a film. It's not. It's a flick. It's a horror comedy called Y2K by Kyle Mooney. Kyle Mooney has this weird, quirky sense of humor that I love. It didn't translate too well to the movie, and there's some reasons why, but the movie was just enough absurd that it was good. And you can check it out if you want to have just a stupid fun time and have some nostalgia for the 90s, because it takes place on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
1999. Right when and the premise is that the computers all get together because of the Y2K bug, and they try to kill humanity, and they have to fight back. So
if you pay really close attention, everything he just said can totally fall in line in the canon of Futurama. So
in Futurama, nice.
Robots do seem to destroy the world while he's in that little character thing. Anyway, if you're on the laptop, consider rating and reviewing our show on Podchaser or Good Pods. It's going to help our show gain recognition, make it easier to find in those search engines like Google, Yahoo, whatever people use these days. I don't know. If you're on your phone, consider rating, reviewing, or commenting on our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's going to help prioritize our show in those algorithms, which are where most people listen to podcasts. So thank you in advance for that free support. That's only going to take you like 10 seconds to write that rate, review. Literally hitting like thumbs up or 5 stars takes so little time, and it helps us so much, and we really appreciate it. Again, we want to thank one of our sponsors. We always like to shout out a sponsor from Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. Today we're shouting out Jonathan Augustin. Jonathan, you're amazing. We love you. You rock. Guys, if you want your own shout out, you want to be like Jonathan, you too can support our show for $3 a month on one of those 3 platforms, Apple Podcasts, Captivate, or Patreon. And remember, we're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
Hey guys, Christian here to talk about our YouTube page. That's where you can go find us at youtube.com/@systematicgeekology. We have exclusive stuff there, exclusive videos where you can just hear other topics that you'll never hear on the podcast proper. These include things like comic book catch-up, where we're discussing the newest comics that we're reading, Friday Night Frights, where Joe Day and I explore a cryptozoological, paranormal, ufological item of discussion. Has a lot of good fun there. I have a lot of great times with him. We have spontaneous YouTube shorts that we decided to do. A topic we wanted to discuss. They're in a very short form. We do them there as well. You can interact with us live as we're recording like a What's New episode or something like that. You have something you want to chime in? Well, how can you do it unless you head over to youtube.com/@systematicgeekology. All right, guys. See ya.
Hello there, listener. Thanks for listening. This is Evan Garcia. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We just wanted to come in and remind you that this episode is part of a bigger network of podcasts called the Anazal Podcast Network. We have great shows like the Whole Church Podcast, Kung Fu Pizza Party, and the Homily with Pastor Chill Will. Chill Will. The podcast has sermons from our host, Pastor Will. Great sermons every time. The Kung Fu Pizza Party is Brandon Knight showing his expertise and his passion for everything Kung Fu films. And he dispenses a bunch of wisdom. Great show. And the Whole Church Podcast, where Josh and TJ interview people from different denominations and church traditions to pursue greater church unity. It's a great podcast to see what other denominations are included. And we just want to say thank you so much for listening. See you next time.